I am calling in from PLT Canada's main area. Our office and much of our team lives and works in the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. We recognize the Algonquins' time-honored relationships with and stewardship of its lands and waters, and are committed to upholding our shared responsibilities to continue that stewardship for present and future generations. So I just want to acknowledge where we're calling from tonight. So we're here today with University of Waterloo. We're excited about the webinar tonight. It's a great opportunity for you to learn about how your values align with your potential green job trajectory, and a great opportunity for you to participate in some hands-on activities tonight. So thanks. So you would have just met Maria. So Maria's on our team tonight, and you'll see her hanging about and helping to run the event. She is our senior youth network and mentorship coordinator. We also have Shuya with us tonight, our green jobs coordinator, helping us. And then we also have Mirna, who you would have heard, our communications manager, focused on our bilingual event. And then you'll hear from Carolyn in just a few minutes. So just want to let you know, our team, you may have received emails or met them in various other ways in your engagement with PLT Canada's programs. So you might be coming here because you're a part of one of PLT Canada's Green Jobs programs. And one of the ones that we have really focused this event on is our Green Mentor program. So PLT Canada has been running our Green Mentorship Program for the past 2 years with over 250 participants that are participating in the program. We actually have a cohort right now of 50 mentors and 50 mentees that are going through the program. Our PLT Canada Green Mentor Program is a really important way for people to build their skills, both for mentees and mentors. We know that a lot of people have valued participating in the program in the past, and we hope that if you're a part of the current cohort, that you also are finding it of value, and hopefully gaining some of those skills that a lot of mentees and mentors have indicated in the past. And that includes things like building their confidence, building their networking and communication skills, and for mentors, building their communication, coaching, and empathy skills. PLT Canada is a part of the Sustainable Forestry Initiative, and our vision is a world that values and benefits from sustainably managed forests, and we do that through forest-focused collaborations. PLT Canada is very focused on career pathways and education work, and that is achieved through our education materials in the classroom, through K-8, through all the way to high school, as well as our continuing career pathway courses and resources, including Green Jobs for Youth, which you'll hear about later, as well as our Green Mentor program, as well as Indigenous youth opportunities and resources to engage more Indigenous youth in green jobs pathways. So if you haven't already checked out our website, you can check out the variety of resources and programs we have available to support you and your career pathway. And PLT Canada is really focused on building diversity in the workplace, and we do that through green jobs placements as well as our mentorship program. So if you're interested in looking at a green career, we know that there's opportunities available for you, and that's what this webinar is really about, is trying to find where that fit is for you based on your values.
So on today's agenda, we have Carolyn Lee from the University of Waterloo's Cooperative Education, who's going to do a presentation on the newly developed Future Ready Talent Framework, which outlines the values gap between Gen Z and their future employers, and how to use this information to further your career. And from there, Jess will also help us connect the dots to the forest sector opportunity. Afterwards, we'll get to do a breakout activity where you will work in teams to reflect and assess your values and discuss some questions. And lastly, we will have a question period, and we'll finish it off with some upcoming events that might be of interest to you, as well as some final remarks. So again, I'm really excited to be introducing our guest speaker today, Carolyn Lee, business developer for the University of Waterloo Cooperative Education Program. Carolyn has a background in sports and life sciences and works with associations and organizations across Canada, primarily in the life sciences and environmental sectors, providing information and resources to assist with hiring University of Waterloo's top student talent. So welcome, Carolyn. I'm going to pass it over to you to start the presentation.
Thank you, Maria and Jess. So just bear with me for a second here as I share my screen. Okay. Great. So yes, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here. Welcome, everyone. I was going to say good evening to everyone, but now that I see where everyone is from, even someone from Africa, I think we're in varying time zones all over the world, not just Canada. So whatever time it is, welcome. I'm very pleased to be here. So thank you to PLT Canada for inviting me today. So before we proceed, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm presenting today from the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. I respectfully acknowledge their ancestors and elders, past and present. Our main campus is situated on the Haldimand Tract, the land promised to the Six Nations that includes 10 kilometers on each side of the Grand River. So as we come together today while staying apart, I also acknowledge that we are gathering on other traditional lands across the country, and I guess outside of Canada as well. So I acknowledge the enduring presence and deep traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we all share these lands today. So I'll give a bit of an overview what we're going to go through today. So like the lovely introduction that Maria gave for me, I'm Carolyn Lee. I work with new employers coming to the University of Waterloo looking to hire our students. And so some of the work that cooperative and experiential education does is really analyze the data coming through both from the employer and the student side. So today we're going to be talking about the future of work, who the WorkLearn Institute is, the Future Ready Talent Framework that was developed through the WorkLearn Institute, and then talking about bridging expectations between employers and our next generation of talent, and then the value of cooperative education and other work integrated learning types as well. The future of work is rooted in purpose. We need to start with identity. We need to build resilient and adaptive identities grounded in and fueled by their purpose, passions, and creativity. People are better positioned to develop the uniquely human skills that are hard to automate, like creativity, collaboration, communication, and social and emotional intelligence. The future of work must start with identity, and that identity must be rooted in purpose. So before we start talking about the future, we want to talk a little bit about the present. So we're seeing 4 generations in today's workforce, and we're seeing the baby boomers quickly retiring. And as we can see from the data, millennials make up a large area of active participants in the workforce now. And we will see this gradually transition to more of Generation Z. So who is Gen Z? I think a lot of the people listening tonight are a part of that demographic, but born between 1996 and 2014, already in the workforce and will be entering in staggering numbers. A report by Upwork indicates 58% of the workforce will be millennials and Gen Z by 2028. And we've seen other reports that say that Gen Z will make up possibly as much as 75% of the workforce by 2025, which is really only 4 years away. And this is why we wanted to take some time today to focus on this next generation of talent. So technological advancements and labor market shifts will make our future workforce more global and diverse, creating many new opportunities. So like I mentioned before, it's expected that 58% of the workforce will be millennial and Gen Z by 2028. Additionally, it's projected that 33% of the Canadian workforce will be immigrants by the year 2036. Over 150 million tech jobs are projected to be added globally over the next 5 years. And a very important thing to note that I think many of us have learned over the last couple of years is that approximately 39% of Canadian workers are currently in jobs that they could plausibly carry out from home. Today, I'll be presenting a lot of data coming from the research done by our WorkLearn Institute at the University of Waterloo. The WorkLearn Institute is part of the University of Waterloo's Cooperative and Experiential Education Department, analyzing and studying the large amounts of data coming from the largest co-op program in the world. So the WorkLearn Institute conducts research on the role of co-op and work integrated learning in the development of talent for the future of work, test innovations in work integrated learning to adapt to the changing needs of students and employers. And then number 3, what I'm doing tonight is share data-derived insights through presentations and various forms of publication. And lastly, engage with work integrated learning, the work integrated learning community, including researchers, educators, employers, students, and other work integrated learning advocates, such as Project Learning Tree Canada. So I'll be starting today with the Future Ready Talent Framework. This framework was developed to identify the key competency areas required for individuals to be future ready in any industry or sector. So this framework can be applied in all fields of work. So I encourage you to reflect upon these competencies as they pertain to your fields of interest. But before we get into the framework and what it means for job seekers and youth, we just wanted to take a minute to define skills, values, and competencies, as these are key features but distinctive. So competencies are qualities that are desirable for employees to possess and are traits people need to be successful in their jobs. Whereas a value is an ideal or principle that determines what is correct, desirable, or morally proper. Values are often personal, and different values often hold varying levels of importance in people. And lastly, skills, the one I think most people are familiar with, the learned ability to perform an action with determined results, with good execution. So this would include technical hard skills and in addition to soft skills that are often applied both in your professional and personal life. So competencies are qualities that kind of include elements of both skills and values. So it can be a bit confusing. So we just wanted to really put these definitions out in front of everybody. We spent a lot of time on the development validation for our Future Ready Talent Framework. And through that process, we identified 4 major categories of competencies that will be critical for our students to be future ready. First, the discipline and context-specific skills developed through a student's academic program and reinforced through work experiences. The ability to continually develop oneself, the ability to build effective and strong relationships, and the ability to design and deliver solutions. So I'll get into some details about each of these areas of competencies. So expand expertise really refers to field-specific skills gained from an academic program, as well as workplace and extracurricular experiences. Some skills might be acquired through an employee's self-directed learning, such as a voluntary enrollment in online skills courses. In our framework, information and data literacy pertains to the ability to critically identify and assess the quality and relevance of both quantitative and qualitative data, to organize and synthesize data from multiple sources into meaningful information, translate information for various audiences. Technological literacy refers to embracing the use of new technologies, evaluating the strengths and limitations of possible technologies, and applying technology to increase efficiency and achieve better results, and advocating for innovative technologies, including teaching others. And finally, context-specific knowledge and skills involves understanding and acknowledging the limits of one's own knowledge, skills, and abilities, and developing knowledge and skills relevant to one's specific work situation. The ability to develop oneself is essential to success. And as we've already discussed, in order to succeed in future workplaces, employees will need to constantly be upskilling and reskilling. Success in doing so is contingent on 3 core skills, which we believe work-integrated learning can help develop. Self-assessment is the ability to seek out feedback from others, reflect upon one's performance, incorporate feedback and personal reflections into performance, and to learn from one's mistakes. Self-management requires managing and regulating one's emotions, respecting one's own and others' boundaries between work and other domains of life, and adapting to the workplace culture. And continuous learning and career management involves setting goals to further their development, documenting growth and accomplishments, and seeking experiences that allow them to test what they excel at and enjoy. Continuous learning overlaps with the concept of lifelong learning, which involves an internalized love of learning, critical thinking about one's own learning, and resilience in the face of learning challenges and self-direction. In previous research from the WorkLearn Institute, lifelong learning was one of the talents that employers reported they looked for in candidates during the recruitment process. We live in a social world, and we need to work with others to solve problems and to succeed in our personal endeavors. So the ability to capitalize and build upon our uniquely human skills has always been important, but it will be even more so in the future world of work, particularly as we work in new ways with increasingly diverse and global colleagues. So there are 3 components to the build relationships category: communication, collaboration, and cross-cultural agility. And communication I think we are all familiar with this one, but it involves ability to use clear and concise language, to listen, ask questions, and to adapt one's communication style and tone to the audience and circumstance, and to demonstrate respectful written, verbal, and nonverbal communication. Collaboration requires recognizing the value of diverse perspectives, actively listening to others, including demonstrating interest through verbal and nonverbal behaviors. Cross-cultural agility is about more than intercultural skills. It means using language that is inclusive of diverse groups, taking steps to learn about the values and norms present within the workplace, and acknowledging and respecting multiple points of view within workplace settings and adapting to the organization's cultural dynamics. And the last section in the Future Ready Talent Framework is design and deliver solutions. Problem solving is at the heart of the workplace and designing and delivering solutions. So we anticipate that the future workplace will have many opportunities for the doers who can use critical thinking skills, creativity, and an innovation mindset to actually implement solutions. In order to create solutions, one must be able to think critically. And this involves seeking to understand the big picture, the root problem or purpose for one's actions. It also includes identifying multiple possible options or solutions to the problem, applying criteria to determine the best course of action, and making evidence-based decisions or recommendations. An innovation mindset refers to the ability to identify important problems and areas for improvement, demonstrating curiosity, including asking relevant questions about important issues, and exploring implications of proposed solutions. And finally, implementation means managing one's own deadlines, demonstrating a commitment to goals, identifying concrete steps necessary to complete projects, and tracking progress towards defined goals. So worth noting is that an innovation mindset has been identified as uniquely human. Robots or automation cannot display this skill. So with that, we're going to move to a different area here and talk a little bit more about the values piece. We're talking specifically with the values gap, and I'll be presenting some results from some studies of surveying both our student body and employers to really explore this piece. And what we have discovered is that there is a gap specifically between Gen Z, what they're looking for in a job, and what employers are looking for, and what they think is important to Gen Z. Nearly 50% of students through our survey say they're unlikely to accept a job that matches their skills, but not their values. So this first study I'm going to talk about here involved analyzing over 37,000 co-op jobs posted over the last 3 years. And what we discovered was that job descriptions with keywords related to the following 6 themes received a higher number of applications. All of the jobs were posted in the first month of our recruitment cycle for our co-op term. We wanted to look at the key aspects of job postings that drove student interest and applications that are relevant and high quality. The analysis included multiple data points, industry, size of company, and location of job. So tonight, I'm just going to pull out the top 3 and talk a little bit more about what those keywords were. And maybe you can just kind of think about what sorts of jobs you are looking to apply to, and if these words really do speak to you. So one of the top ones was when more words related to company culture were included in a job description, the job was more likely to receive a higher number of applications. And so these keywords were related to collaboration, change, opportunities to be challenged, and words related to community, people, and social opportunities available at work. So does this relate to you? I encourage everyone to think about what matters most to them for an employer or a job as we go through this data. Are you more interested in jobs that focus on the work culture? Additionally, jobs outlining workplace values also correlated with high application numbers. And this covered keywords related to supports available to students and employees, opportunities to lead and have impact, learn, and grow. And lastly, outside of job posting text, relevant information under compensation was very important to our students. And I think that that's fairly common with all job seekers. And not necessarily salary itself, but items such as benefits not related to earnings, salary commensurate with level of experience and education, at the University of Waterloo, this is an optional field, but we know that students prefer having as much information upfront as possible to guide them in their job search. And we share this information with our employers as well, as they to help them write their job descriptions. So we also asked employers to rank the main attributes they look for when hiring. And as you can see, both the first and second most desired areas of talent are skills. Employers rank all attributes that aren't skills related as less desirable. This is very interesting, as skills are typically something that can be put to use immediately, and other forms of talent take more time to develop. It's possible employers are nervous about investing time into developing young talent over the long term. They could be afraid new talent will leave after just a short time, but it's just important to highlight this values gap is in play. And as for self-direction, everybody said it was an important value. Students ranked it second and employers ranked it first, and guessed it was students' third most important. Yet here, employers choose self-direction as their least desired form of talent. Even as they acknowledge that it's likely a key value among their candidate pool, employers don't appear too eager to acknowledge it yet as a top recruitment attribute. So overall, there appears to be a gap between what employers perceive the next generation of talent values and is motivated by, what they think their organization values, and then what they actually look for when hiring. So we're just going to have a table here to look at all three of these categories. We're going to look at the comparison between what students say they valued, what employers say they valued, and what employers perceived students would value most. So notice that benevolence, which is defined as helping those that are close to you, such as friends, family, colleagues, is number one for students. And the disconnect with what employers perceive students to value, hedonism, which is defined as having fun, enjoying what you do. It's fairly important to students. It is interesting to note how low benevolence falls in employers' perception of students. And like we discussed on the previous slide, employers rank self-direction, which is independent thought, managing yourself, as number one, which was fairly consistent across all three areas, and which is promising and very important in this virtual world. So once again, notice that employers think students value hedonism the most. Once again, that having fun, enjoying what you do. And they're not completely wrong, as hedonism is within the top three values for students. However, this can create an interesting and tricky recruitment challenge for organizations as they try to find that balance between benevolence and hedonism. They need to market a fun work environment, but somehow need to make sure they're also highlighting impact and social good where applicable. So for example, if an organization already promotes volunteer hours or days, we encourage them to share that on social channels where next-gen talent are more likely to access it and associate it with their brand. So here's a slightly different look at the motivators for Gen Z, which is separate from values, and also what employers perceived to be the top motivators for Gen Z. So it is interesting to note that flexible workplace and hours are what employers perceive to be the number one motivator for students. And if you see on the right-hand side, we don't really see that registering at all. And this plays off employers assuming hedonism, the more time for fun, is the most important piece for students. But three motivators are shared: enjoying what they do, developing friendships at work, and having a positive impact on society. So we provide the following advice for employers. If employers don't believe early talent are motivated by complex work, we have to ask them what types of tasks are being assigned to the students or youth. A tip to ensure students stay engaged and challenged on top of regular tasks includes assigning them a project, ask questions about what they're interested in, and assign them some challenge the organization is facing and giving them some free rein to work on it. Worst case, a student learned more about the organization by connecting with various people in the company and possibly starting to discover their potential in the workplace. Best case, employers end up with a solution that can bring in extra revenue or improve workplace processes or morale. So for job seekers, just keep this in mind when you look at job postings or you're doing your career exploration, and really determine what is important to you as you determine that through the job posting and then the interview as well. So a quick recap on what our work-learn research has uncovered regarding what students are looking for in employers. They want to work for companies whose values align with their own personal values. They want opportunities to help others and make a real impact. Work-life balance and flexibility is important, along with opportunities to be collaborative in their workplace or environment. And lastly, opportunities to solve new complex problems are key as well. And companies need capable people with vast skill sets who can contribute across every aspect of their organizations. And next-gen talent has the capacity to contribute to work for the next 40 years. So they are the future workforce, and employers need to understand what motivates them to apply for jobs and also what motivates them within the workplace as well. So as we're talking about all of these different values, skills, and competencies, how can youth and students work on developing future-ready skills and competencies? And I've used this word already, but work integrated learning. So here we just wanted to highlight the various ways that youth can get the experience needed to develop future-ready talents. And you can see them all here, and cooperative education is right there at the top. Not listed here are mentorship relationships or networks, which really is a fantastic way to develop the next generation of leaders, and is one of the many ways that Project Learning Tree Canada is developing the next generation of talent in the forestry sector. So I am from the University of Waterloo, and cooperative education is one of the types of work integrated learning outlined on the previous slide. And at Waterloo, our co-op program is the largest in the world and provides our WorkLearn Institute the vast amounts of data required to produce the insights presented to you tonight. So we have over 25,000 students currently enrolled in over 120 accredited co-op programs, including programs from our Faculty of Environment. And we have a network of over 7,000 active employers hiring our students every year. So on that note, I'm just going to kind of pull it all together with the last few thoughts and just say next gen talent is the future. And young talent is adapting to an evolving work reality, which has been driven home more these past 2 years. Next gen talent is critical for rebuilding the economy. Next gen talent want employers' values to align with their own, and opportunities to make an impact will help retain young talent moving forward. And with that, I have my contact information here today, and it's been an honor presenting for you today. And we hope that you found the research findings from the WorkLearn Institute insightful and helpful as you move forward in your careers and career exploration. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carolyn. That was fantastic. It was really interesting as you were going through it, because I was thinking, hopefully, can you guys see my screen? Okay, perfect. Hopefully you guys, one of the things I was thinking of as you were discussing values, as you were discussing opportunities for the next gen, it made me think about how it aligns so closely to opportunities in the forest sector. And so thinking about, having belief in what you do, enjoying work, which is an important thing for next gen talent, but also being able to give back and feeling like you have purpose. And that one of the first slides you had said was around purpose-driven work. And I feel like that's kind of the interesting part about green jobs, is that is what really drives green jobs, is having purpose.
I think that's great, Jess. And I think that's one nice thing about presenting to your organization and your group here is the purpose. To me, seems very obvious. And I think there are some industries and sectors where sometimes it's not as clear cut necessarily, and really kind of doing that exploration within yourself to find that purpose can be sometimes a bit more challenging. And so it is a nice fit for your organization for sure.
Definitely. Just wanted to make some other connections too. Like in my career path, one of the reasons I entered into the sector was knowing that there would be diversity in the positions, knowing that there would be opportunities to grow. And it sounds like that's a really important value for this next generation, is ways to discover their potential, ways to find a place for them to grow. And I think that's what's really unique in the forest and conservation sector. Also, some things that I think are interesting are, like you mentioned, work-life balance, not the biggest thing for next gen, but I think that is a huge benefit for the forest sector, is that it is known to provide that work-life balance. And then last but not least is affordable living. I know that that's kind of like, it's a value, it's a goal, but working in the city can be expensive. And so being able to work in some of the rural areas and have affordable living is also really something that people value.
Definitely. One thing I just wanted to comment on that when you were talking about work-life balance, I think one thing we've discussed on our team is, when you survey youth and, if we're surveying our students and we have, say, a lot of first or second year students, filling out the information and maybe they've been out on 1 or 2 work terms, the concept of work-life balance maybe isn't as impactful as someone who's been in working for many years. It's not a reality yet necessarily, other than I think balancing school and co-op work terms can be very challenging. But it's sometimes when we talk to students, it's not something that's really necessarily on their radar yet. So it's something to keep in mind when surveying different demographics like this. For sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in our mentorship program, that's one of the unique things, is that people can meet people that are in the sector and they can ask them, what are some of the things that you value? And those are the things that like long-term come up, and even affordable living long-term comes up. But through those mentorship relationships, I think that's some of those unique insights that you don't get early on in your career.
Right.
Thank you for participating. Does anyone have any reflections that they would like to share with the rest of the group? And you can either put it in the chat or unmute yourself. I'm really curious to hear what your conversations were like. Oh yeah, that's a good question. Just put in the chat, what did people rank as their top values? Balance, making a difference and adventure. That's awesome. Yeah, it seems like a lot of you are saying making a difference. Absolutely. City says sustainability, kindness, challenge is also really important to some of you. That's really interesting because I feel like it lines up really well with what Carolyn was saying earlier today as well. Okay, well, awesome. Thank you again. So in this exercise, you were able to reflect on how some of the experiences that you've had are reflective of your values, and maybe in some of the positions you've had in the past, your values were reflected, and others maybe not so much. And so through this reflection or exercise, it gives you some valuable information to be aware of. And just thinking beyond today, it's really important to be self-aware, and the self-awareness can help guide you when you start looking for your next green job. And so one of the things that you can do as you start looking at different jobs and different organizations is looking at work culture, such as their work culture statements, their missions and values of an organization as well. And some other things you can do is consider some of the bigger questions. And Jess kind of touched on this earlier today, but thinking about like, what is your lifestyle and work preferences? Do you value things like working outdoors? Do you prefer to work in an office, perhaps a mix? So think about these and make note of them, because it can help align a workplace that resonates the most with you and your interests. And lastly, again, both Jeff and Carolyn kind of touched on this earlier today, but reflecting on your core motivations. So thinking about the why. Why are you interested in working in the green job sector? And why do you find this type of work important? And why do you want to be part of it? So I'm going to be opening it up for questions. Again, feel free to unmute yourself or put any questions that you have in the chat, and let us know if it's a question for Carolyn or perhaps for someone in the PLC Canada team.
I had a question for Carolyn. Maybe I could ask her, and I don't know if she'd know the answer, but I'm curious about if this study was done 20 years ago, if you know some of the top values that would have come from that generation.
That's a really good question. And I think we had a discussion about, when we touched on, for example, the work-life balance piece as a team, we talked about some of the differences and some of the perceptions from employers that maybe, company, managers who are maybe of an older demographic, that there were the work-life balance and also the stability was a much higher ranked value. So people used to stay in companies longer. It was a goal for the baby boomers, for example, to get that job and stay there for their lifetime and retire with the same employer their whole career. And we know now that that is not what happens now with millennials, even Gen X and now Gen Z, that people work for multiple employers throughout the duration of their career. And, 5 years is like a long time right now these days for someone to stay with one company. So that was one thing we talked about as a difference when employers are, their perception from an older demographic is that, well, of course, stability would and work-life balance would obviously be a number one motivator, and it's just not. So that was one thing. But that's just came from conversations we had with some of the employers that maybe were from an older demographic. Mm-hmm.
That's true. And I think a lot of us, if we think about potentially our parents, they probably worked in the same place for a long time.
Yeah.
Versus exactly. A lot of us these days. So
yeah,
that's fair.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I have a question regarding the values. I was just wondering, in terms of generations, how these values have shifted and what's driving right now this generation towards green jobs versus like the older generation, just like you mentioned. So I was just curious if how does that affect people to go towards green jobs in terms of value shifting?
Well, I think we saw it even here from your breakout session, right? Making a difference is everyone's top value. And I think we see that across the board with our students at Waterloo, that motivations and the values have changed quite a bit, and the world has changed quite a bit. And the relationship with work and compensation and your life, things have changed quite a bit. If you look at even just us talking about how long someone will work for an employer, making a difference has become much more important. And it's sometimes, the baby boomer generation doesn't quite understand that as fully, that's a main motivator now. But that's what we have seen shift over the different demographics, and even anecdotally what I have seen through my career as well, working with people both older and younger than me, that's the major difference. People want to make an impact and have their work matter. And previously, it just wasn't necessarily as important to the older generations. Mm-hmm.
And I'll just say that on a good plug for the green job sector or the forest sector, that it is a place where you can make that difference.
I think and I'd mentioned that earlier. I think this play, and we can see it once again with the people attending tonight, that the reason you're working in this space is that you are making a difference. And it's one of those ways that is easily identifiable by anyone, even outside of the industry as well. So making an impact is something that, to me, seems obvious working in the forestry sector and the environmental sector. Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. So if there are no additional questions, we'll be moving on to what's coming up next. So we have a couple of events on the horizon. In January, we'll be hosting our event, Maximizing Your Green Job Search webinar, where you will learn some tips and tricks for how to be efficient in your green job search. And in February, we have PLT Canada's My Green Job Fair, so stay tuned for that. This is going to be an online green job fair, and we'll have employers there, so you'll be able to do some networking. And with that, I want to thank you for coming and taking the time. A big thank you to Carolyn and the University of Waterloo team for helping us deliver this amazing webinar. And of course, to the PLT Canada team for their support today. But yes, thank you so much. And I hope to see you at the next event.